You are going to eat something today that you know you shouldn't. Maybe it's already happened. Maybe it's waiting for you at 3 p.m. or after dinner, or the moment no one is watching. And when you reach for it, some part of your brain will whisper that you have no willpower, that you are weak, that a better version of you would make a different choice. But the real answer is far stranger, and it has nothing to do with willpower at all. It starts about 2.5 million years ago in a world where food was not guaranteed, where the difference between eating today and starving next week was not a matter of discipline. It was a matter of luck, skill, and timing. And in that world, the humans who survived were not the ones with the most self-control. They were the ones who wanted food the most, the ones whose brains rewarded them so intensely for finding fat and sugar that they would cross miles of open savanna to get it. Those were your ancestors, and their brain is the brain you are walking around with right now. Neuroscientist Berridge has spent decades studying the difference between wanting and liking. Two things most of us assume are the same but are, neurologically, completely separate systems. Liking is what you feel when something tastes good. Wanting is what drives you to seek it in the first place. And in his research, Berridge discovered something that changes everything you think you know about cravings. The wanting system, driven by dopamine, is vastly more powerful than the liking system. And it runs almost entirely outside your conscious control. You do not decide to crave, your brain decides for you. The dopamine system does not care whether you are happy. It does not care whether you are full. It cares about one thing: sending you toward resources that kept your ancestors alive. And at the top of that list, above almost every other substance on Earth, are fat and sugar. Here is why. Fat is the most calorie-dense macronutrient that exists in nature. 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrate or protein contains 4. For an animal on the edge of survival, finding fat was not indulgence. It was an emergency reserve. A single meal of fatty meat could be the difference between surviving a lean week or not surviving at all. Your brain knew this, and so it built a reward signal around fat so powerful that even imagining fatty food, smelling it, seeing it, activates dopamine release before you have taken a single bite. You are being rewarded for wanting before you even act. Sugar is the same story but faster. Glucose is the brain's primary fuel. The brain is roughly 2% of your body's mass, but consumes 20% of its energy. And the brain is a selfish organ. It always takes its share first. In a world where calories were scarce and glucose supplies could drop without warning, a strong craving for sweetness was survival. Ripe fruit meant sugar. Sugar meant energy. Energy meant another day alive. The sweetest things in the ancient world were also, almost always, the safest and most nutritious. So your ancestors evolved a brain that lit up like a fire when sweetness hit the tongue. Evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard argues that what we now call unhealthy cravings are, from an evolutionary standpoint, not cravings at all. They are perfectly calibrated instincts, rational responses to scarcity that no longer exists. The problem is not that your biology is broken. The problem is that your biology is working exactly as designed, in an environment it was never designed for. Think about what your ancestor would have encountered if they wanted something sweet. They would have had to find a fruit tree at the right time of year, compete with other animals for the fruit, climb to reach it, carry what they could. And even then, the fruit would have been smaller, less sweet, and far less abundant than anything you will encounter at a gas station checkout line. The fruit your ancestors ate had maybe 8 grams of sugar. A single can of soda has 39. A large fast food milkshake contains more sugar than your ancestor might have consumed in a week. Your wanting system was calibrated for scarcity. It is now operating inside abundance, and it does not know the difference. Researcher Ashley Gearhardt at the University of Michigan has built an entire field around what she calls food addiction, using the same diagnostic criteria that apply to substance dependence: loss of control over consumption, continued use despite negative consequences, failed attempts to cut back, preoccupation with obtaining the substance. In her studies, highly processed foods, those engineered to deliver maximum fat, sugar, and salt simultaneously, activate the brain's reward circuitry in ways that are neurologically indistinguishable from drugs like cocaine and alcohol. This is not metaphor. This is neuroscience. The food industry has known this for decades. Beginning in the 1980s, product developers began optimizing for what researchers now call the Bliss Point, the precise combination of fat, sugar, and salt that produces the maximum craving response while delivering just enough satisfaction to keep you eating without ever reaching a clean stopping point. It is not an accident that a bag of chips has no natural end. It is an engineered feature. The stopping cue, the signal your brain would normally use to say enough, the resources are secured, has been deliberately removed. Your ancient brain has no defense against this. It was never asked to defend against this. It evolved to respond to the richest food source available by eating as much as possible, as fast as possible, because the next time you found something this good, you didn't know when it would be. And so you eat past fullness, and then you feel ashamed, and the shame becomes its own kind of stress. And stress, as your brain reads it, is a threat. And the fastest thing that relieves the threat signal is the same reward system that caused the problem. So you reach for it again. It is not a character failure. It is a loop, a very old loop running in a very new world. But here's where it gets even stranger. The craving is not just for the food, it is for the feeling of seeking. Berridge's research shows that the dopamine wanting system is not primarily about pleasure. It is about anticipation. The peak dopamine hit does not come when you eat the thing. It comes just before. The wanting is the drug. The getting is almost beside the point. This is why you can think about a food, plan to get it, drive toward it, unwrap it, and feel a quiet deflation the moment it is actually in your mouth, because the system has already delivered its payload. The dopamine was in the chase. Your ancestors felt this too. The craving that sent them out searching, the narrowed focus on the target, the surge of energy and purpose as the food came into reach. That feeling was not weakness. It was the engine of survival. It is the same engine that built civilizations, the same restless wanting that drove humans across oceans and into space, and into every problem worth solving. The wanting system is not your enemy. It is the most powerful motivational force your species has ever produced. It just needs something worth hunting. So the next time you reach for something at 3 p.m. that you told yourself you wouldn't, stop. Not to shame yourself, just to notice. Notice the wanting before the eating. Notice that the craving arrived before the decision. Notice that something ancient and extraordinarily well-designed just activated in your chest and your hands and your attention. A system older than language, older than agriculture, older than fire. You are not weak. You are incredibly well adapted to a world that no longer exists. And somewhere in your body, a brain that spent 2.5 million years learning how to want is still doing its job. Still scanning, still sending you toward the richest source of energy it can find. You already knew you were going to eat something today that you shouldn't. Now you know exactly why.